until I ran into it today. I was like, oh, this is that thing.
I now call this meeting of the Ann Arbor Public Schools Board of Education to order. I would like to remind the public that this is a hybrid meeting and that some of our presenters may join us by Zoom. Ms. Ozinski, may we have a roll call, please?
Hello? Yes. Okay. Trustee Basquette?
Yes.
President Feaster?
Here.
Trustee Mohammed?
Here.
Trustee Schmidt?
Present.
Trustee Wilkerson?
Present.
Trustee Wilkins?
Here.
Trustee Wilkes?
Present.
Thank you, Ms. Ozinski. I would now like to introduce our non-voting member at the table, Superintendent of Schools, Ms. Jazz Parks.
Thank you, President Feaster. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. I believe that brings us down to our land acknowledgement statement, and I would invite Trustee Wilkerson, if he would not mind, reading that for us again.
Sure. We acknowledge that the Ann Arbor Public Schools District occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabeg, Three Fires Confederacy, the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi. The taking of this land was formed in a process alien to Native cultures by the Treaty of Detroit in 1807. The Ann Arbor Public Schools recognizes that many other Native peoples lived on this land at different times, including the Fox, Sauk, Shawnee, Kickapoo, Miami, Muscatoon, and Cherokee, many of whom were forcefully removed from their homelands. Acknowledgement by itself is a small gesture that does not exist in the past or solely in a historical context. Colonialism is a current ongoing process, and we understand our responsibility in educating students about our participation. We further recognize the ongoing relationship, dependency upon, and respect for all living beings of earth, sky, and water. It is our responsibility to care for this land, and we honor with our deepest gratitude the Native people who have and will continue to steward it for generations.
Thank you, Trustee Wilkerson. Trustees, you have all received the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Trustee Schmidt, supported by Trustee Wilkes. Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Ozinski, please.
Trustee Basquette?
Yes.
President Feaster?
Yes.
Trustee Mohammed?
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Wilkerson?
Yes.
Trustee Wilkins?
Yes.
And Trustee Wilkes?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ozinski. That brings us down to the public commentary section of the agenda. The board would like to remind everyone that individuals who have signed up for public commentary will have their names called and are given an opportunity to speak. Commenters will receive up to 4 minutes with a total of no more than 45 minutes allowed for the public commentary period. When your name is called, please come forward and speak at the microphone. To help manage your time, a clock will be placed on the screen in front of you. We would like to remind everyone that public comments generally pertain to the Ann Arbor Public School District matters. Comments about any individual or individuals are expressly prohibited. Also, please understand that board members do not respond to public comments, but we will listen carefully and will follow up as appropriate. Ms. Ozinski, how many sign-ups do we have for this evening?
We have 3 signed up this evening. Each person would get 4 minutes. And the first is Sonia Chawla.
Thank you, Ms. Ozinski.
Okay. Good evening, trustees and Superintendent Parks. I'm a parent of 2 children in AAPS. I'm here to express concern about building safety, particularly given the recent lockdowns at some AAPS schools. I've obtained information from an informal poll of teachers at one AAPS school about building conditions. Around 2/3 of the 70 teachers and school staff at this school responded. There's a pretty good response rate. Here are some things they said when asked if they are fully prepared to protect their students in the event of an emergency or lockdown. And I'm reading quotes here. The lock on our door is quite flimsy. In the past, a student has broken it open just by pulling hard on the door handle. As a teacher on a second floor with no safe escape out of my classroom other than the door, my classroom door has a window in it that would not be difficult at all to break through. My room could very easily be accessed by an intruder and there would be no escape for myself or my students. I feel like a sitting duck. Night lock would be great, and being told by the district safety person that my students and I should jump out my second floor window if necessary is really frustrating. And our classroom doors have windows that could easily be broken and then unlocked. I would like more secure doors. And here's what the data say, actual numbers. Over 1/3 of respondents report that their outside-facing windows do not open or close properly. None of the teachers whose classrooms are on the second floor of the building have safety ladders for exiting out the window in case of an emergency. Just over 3/4 of the respondents have functioning locks on their doors, which given it's a high percentage, but really all of the doors should be able to lock. Just over 1/3 of the respondents do not have a functioning lockdown lock. And finally, 29%, so over a quarter of the classrooms do not have an alternate exit in case of an emergency. This is a problem. Our teachers and school staff do not have appropriate safety mechanisms in the event of an emergency. They and our children are not safe in the classrooms. These data are just from one school, and my guess is that other AAPS schools have similar or comparable safety issues. I implore the board and the district administration to look further into building safety and to use any funds, particularly bond money, to make sure that our schools are physically safe. I'd be more than happy to fully share the data that have been collected upon written request. So I'm happy to make that available to anybody who wants it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next is Kathy Griswold.
Good evening. I was on the school board from 2001 until 2005 when we successfully passed the bond for building Skyline High School and making renovations to all the schools. And one of our strategies was something for everyone, so everyone would want to vote for the bond. And I think that was successful. Now we are faced with a 1 mil tax increase, and that seems to be the same approach, something for everyone. But where else can you take $1 million of other people's money, invested in a campaign where we're not only having to spend the money to hold a special election in November that's estimated to cost $1 million of taxpayer money through the WISD, but all of the signage and the banners that's appearing at the schools, as well as all of the ads that are online promoting CTE, are also paid for with taxpayer money. And the return on that $1 million of our money is $250 million over 10 years. That's about the same amount, not adjusted for inflation, that we use to build Skyline and renovate all of the other schools. So I'm really concerned about the use of our money in that way. I am a product of CTE. I took drafting class in the late 1960s at Pioneer High School in the E-Wing. And just to put that in perspective, that was when girls had to wear skirts. I was the only female, and I got an A in those classes for design, but a C for line quality. I wasn't a very neat student. But anyway, that was sort of a defining moment. I loved that class. It taught me critical thinking, and it sort of set me in a direction where I later went on and got an information systems degree from the University of Michigan Ross School. So I can't say enough about career tech education. But if we want to be a leader, not only Ann Arbor, Washtenaw County, but the United States in technology and in career tech education, we need to have an agile delivery model to do that. And that delivery model is Washtenaw Community College. It is not another bureaucratic layer with the Washtenaw Intermediate School District. That is why I am opposing this millage. It also it negatively impacts our affordability. And last night I was at a planning commission for the Ann Arbor Public Schools, and in the comprehensive land use policy, one of the statements was the high cost of property taxes in Ann Arbor negatively impacts housing and is a significant factor in housing affordability in this community. I realize it's more than just Ann Arbor, but we have to look at affordability. We have to look at how we can deliver the best education to our students. That is why I recommend that you vote no. For more information, you can go to the website, Citizens Against Regressive Taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Blake Lancaster.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So no names whatsoever, or just nobody within the school district, or what is the no name?
It is encouraged that you not make any personal attacks on associated with the school district.
Okay. So I can mention students not in an attacking way, or parents of students.
I don't think that's expressly stated in our spiel here. Obviously,
I don't think it'll be a problem.
Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you. And thank you for your time. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Blake Lancaster. I'm here tonight because after 5 years of effort, patience, and collaboration, I am profoundly frustrated and disappointed by Ann Arbor Public Schools' continued refusal to support the creation of a Michigan High School Athletic Association ski team. This effort began long before my own children entered high school, and in fact it started with a friend of mine, Tom Phillips, began advocating for his son Gray, who loves ski racing and simply wanted the chance to represent his school. Gray has since graduated, having spent all 4 years of high school without ever being given the opportunity to race. And now my own children, a junior and freshman at Pioneer, are on track to experience the same thing. For 5 years, families have tried to do everything right. We've worked respectfully and persistently with district staff. We followed the process, provided documentation, built consensus. We've generated interest from more than 20 Pioneer families and over 40 families district-wide. We've brought forward a fully funded, zero-cost proposal to form a cooperative ski team with Saline High School. It's just one of many proposals we've proposed. One that would require no administrative work, no transportation costs, no financial commitment from AAPS. The only thing needed was a signature. Yet despite meeting every criteria the district itself outlines for adding a new athletic program, the doors remain closed. Over the years, we've communicated with multiple district leaders. The individuals who are, by the district's own account, decision makers in this process, have been completely unresponsive to dozens of emails, and phone calls have gone unanswered. The only meaningful response came after we physically went to the district office and made it clear we were not leaving until someone addressed our proposal. Even then, they refused to meet in person and instead sent a form letter stating that AAPS is not adding any new sports, while simultaneously claiming that the process is open and considered thoughtfully and equitably for all proposals. That statement directly contradicts our experience and the district's own stated process. We were told there's a path, and then told the door is permanently shut. This isn't about a lack of interest, funding, or feasibility. It's about accountability and responsiveness. Every comparable district in our region, Saline, Brighton, Chelsea, Northville, many others, field an MHSAA ski team. Ann Arbor already supports many non-MHSAA sports, like equestrian and crew. Clearly, the precedent exists. The infrastructure exists. The student enthusiasm exists. What's missing is the will of the district's leadership to engage and act in good faith. This lack of responsiveness sends a damaging message to families that the district's stated commitment to student opportunity and inclusion stops when students propose something new. Tell students that their voices don't matter and that they can follow every rule, meet every requirement, and still be ignored without explanation. The board should be aware that this is not an isolated incident. It reflects a broader culture of administrative inertia and undermines innovation and discourages community engagement. When families bring forth fully funded, no-cost, student-driven proposals and are met with silence or form letters, it erodes trust in the system, drives family away from the district. Ann Arbor Public Schools prides itself on excellence, on equity, on listening to its students. I'm asking the board to live up to those values. Look into why a straightforward, no-cost MHSA-sanctioned opportunity supported by dozens of families has been stalled for 5 years. Our students deserve better than bureaucratic silence. It's time for AAPS to stop deflecting and start supporting the students it claims to serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes public commentary.
Thank you, Ms. Ozinski. Superintendent Parks, are there any points of clarification?
Yeah, I would offer just a couple points here. Number one, obviously, safety is our number one priority, so we will look into the concerns expressed this evening during the comments about some of the safety measures at our school. As it relates to athletics, there are a variety of factors that go into whether or not new teams and extracurricular clubs and activities are added. So we will follow up with our athletic directors to see what's going on there, and we'll follow up with the parent who brought the concern forward.
Thank you, Ms. Parks. I believe that brings us down. Trustee Wilkinson?
Yeah, I would like to make one more clarification. Just the millage that was referenced is a county-wide millage through the ISD. Ann Arbor Public Schools doesn't control that, and that's not our millage that's put forward.
Thank you, Trustee Wilkinson. Saying nothing else? I believe that brings us down to number 4, community feedback. Trustees, I would like to call your attention to the community feedback for this meeting. You should all have that in your...
There's no community feedback that we received for this
Okay.
meeting, sorry.
No problem. I believe that brings us down to number 5, reports of associations. Ms. Ozinski, do we have anyone here from the AAEA tonight?
I do not believe so. I did not get notified. Is anyone here from the AAEA to report? No, I think we have no report tonight.
That brings us down to our community group reports then. Ms. Ozinski, do we have any group signed up for this evening?
We do. The PTOC has signed up.
All right.
Hi, I'm going to be your bad penny tonight. Sorry about that. So I'm, thank you so much for, is it the little lever here? Okay, thanks. Little, height challenged. Sorry about that. So I have already introduced myself. I'm also here with the PTOC. You want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure. I'm Perry Stone Palmquist with Student Advocacy Center, and we're happy to be partnering with PTOC.
Yep. Do we have our slides okay, thank you. Okay, perfect. Thanks. So we appreciate you giving us this time to talk about a crucial initiative called Invest in My Kids. Next slide, please. Thank you. We're starting with this quote from former Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Louis Brandeis, because this campaign is about schools, but it's also about more than that. Public education is the cornerstone of our democracy, and how we fund it goes to the heart of who this nation is and what we choose to become. Another politician, Joe Biden, also said that show me what you fund, and I'll show you your values. So, fund public education. We value public education. We know that there's no silver bullet to creating great public schools for every child. This movement has been building since 2015, when education advocates and experts started working together to research and enact smart policies. One of the things they realized is that in order for any reform to be possible, our schools have to be fully resourced. So they built comprehensive cost estimates for a truly adequate system and have been working towards that goal ever since. In the past 2 years, we've seen the first increases because of a strong economy, and additional federal funding have led to higher state revenues. But that progress has now reached its limit, and it's even at risk of falling backwards because of federal cuts. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here are some of the data that our coalition has been looking at over the past 10 years. This is a chart which shows standardized test scores, or one measure of student achievement, and those are the colored bars in the graph. and in Michigan, and it's depicted against national achievement scores. So the 0 line is the national average, and the bars are where test scores in Michigan fall either above or below the national average. When the colored bars go below, that means Michigan is below average, and as you can see, in the early 2000s, Michigan students were above the national average, and in around 2007 dropped significantly below, where we've stayed for almost 20 years. If you click, there's another part of the, yep, again, one more time, please. Thank you. Now we look at state appropriations over this time period. So the squiggly line is state appropriations adjusted, inflation adjusted for 2024. And as you can see, the line is pretty high, and then it starts to dip. And in conjunction with that dip, sort of with a little bit of a lag, that's when test scores start to fall. You can see that that state appropriations have increased over the past couple years, but again, we can't count on that because of current decreases in federal funding. And even if we could, it would still take time for test scores to catch up.
Add one quick
Yeah, of
thing.
course.
That I think we may have seen headlines recently about record funding. I'm going to ask you if you would like $10 today or $10 10 years ago. The value is very different, right? So when you go to policy school, you learn you got to do inflation adjusted numbers. So our per pupil today is actually, I looked at like 1994. It's about what 1994 was, or early 2000s. It's not record funding when you adjust for inflation. And I think the other piece I just have to bring up is that, as I'm sure Superintendent Parks knows, more and more cost for retirement since 1994 has been put onto school districts. In fact, I think the percentage has almost doubled the last chart that I looked at. So not only is the money going down, but what districts are expected to pay for has been going up. So this only tells part of the story, but just had to add that, sorry.
No, thank you. No, don't apologize. That's why you're here too. Next slide, please. So as we said, school funding in Michigan has been dropping dramatically over the past 25 years, and student achievement has been dropping as well. In the early 2000s, we were spending in the neighborhood of $21 billion annually on schools. Starting in about 2003, we saw that level begin to drop, where it dipped for 20 years to levels around 16 to 18 billion. So that's a pretty substantial difference. We've seen an uptick in the last 2 to 3 years, as I mentioned, but it only gets us back up to 2004 levels. COVID dollars, which are not reflected in the chart, have also been a cushion for schools, but those dollars are not there anymore. Next slide, please. So our coalition approached the question of how to raise funds for schools in a time of growing inequality very carefully. We met with economists and lawyers who helped us understand our tax effort by income and what mechanisms would allow us to raise sufficient revenue most fairly. Next. And that led us here. The Invest in My Kids campaign is a ballot initiative to amend the state constitution to add, beginning in 2027, an additional 5% tax on annual taxable income over $1 million for joint filers and over $500,000 for single filers. That means it only applies to income above and beyond those thresholds. So you would be taxed if you're a single filer, you make $500,000 a year, all of that money is taxed at the normal rate. You make $500,001, it's $1 that is taxed at that additional 5% rate. So this revenue must be deposited into the state school aid fund and is required to be used exclusively on local school district classrooms, career and technical education, reducing class sizes, and recruiting and retaining teachers. And this fund would be subject to annual audits. Thank you. You're going to hear a lot of claims over the next year and a half, and it comes down to this. Whose interests are they trying to protect? Our opponents are some of the wealthiest people in the world. They know that you've seen the chart showing their current tax rates. They can't just say they don't want to pay their fair share, and they know that you care about kids. They can't just say that they don't. So they'll say whatever they need to, and we're all going to have to remember to see through it. And so here are three of the common things that you'll probably hear. Does the fare surcharge apply to businesses? Absolutely not. This only applies to individual taxable income. So that's wages, investment income, gambling winnings, any individual business income. So this is not corporate taxes or small business taxes. This is income taxes. Any other type of income individuals report. Will this double the income tax? And as I explained, absolutely not, because the surcharge only applies to income over the thresholds that $1 million for joint filers, $500,000 for individual filers. Aren't schools funded enough? And what about the lottery? Well, money alone is not a silver bullet to make great schools, but it is a baseline requirement. Comprehensive nonpartisan studies have shown that we are not funding our schools adequately. Although the lottery is an important contributor, it only makes up about 6% of the school aid fund. And we can't solve this problem by encouraging people to buy more lottery tickets. It's not going to work that way. So thank you. So here are our partners. Invest in My Kids is a grassroots direct democracy initiative supported by many organizations across the state who have a long history of fighting for equity, justice, and empowerment across Michigan, especially in the areas of education and civic engagement. But, next please, thank you. But most importantly, we're parents, we're grandparents, we're aunts and uncles, neighbors, friends who care about Michigan kids. This is not politics as usual. This is people-powered, community-rooted, and Michigan-grown. Because real change doesn't trickle down, it rises up. Next slide, please. And here's our plan to win. We're recruiting and training 7,000 volunteers across the state to collect signatures we started in mid-August. The plan is to submit 700,000 signatures in mid-February of 2026. And that's because once we start collecting, we have 180 days to get the signatures that we need. And then we'll focus on talking to every Michigander so that a majority, about 2.8 million, vote yes in November 2026. Next slide, please. So none of this works without all of us. So I encourage you all to pull out your phones, not right now after the meeting, and open up investinmykids.org. If you choose, go volunteer and choose to circulate petitions. It would also be wonderful if the board could draft and pass a resolution supporting our effort. Your words of support would mean so much in our fight to more appropriately fund public education.
Yeah,
of course.
A couple things. It's all hands on deck. This is a heavy lift. I never thought, for me personally, that I would be out collecting signatures, but I care about public education enough to get into a very uncomfortable place and talk to a lot of strangers. I just collected 15 signatures at a meeting before this. Most of the time, people are very generous and lovely, and sometimes people aren't, and they say, aren't public schools wasting money? And then I spend a lot of time defending y'all and talking about what our children, our young people tell us, what they're seeing in their schools, and our teachers, and all that stuff. So again, I'm not a particularly political person. I don't like going out and talking to strangers, but this is so important. And I want to thank the people in the room who are out collecting, because that is time away from your family. My family's like, when am I going to see you again? Are you working another Saturday? I'm like, yes, I am. I'm collecting signatures. Mom, are you bringing that with you to this place too? I'm like, yes, I am. So there's hundreds of volunteers, even here in Washtenaw County, who are giving up family time, personal time, because that's how much they care about public education. They're spending a lot of time. We need more people, even if all you can do is bring it with you to your faith community or to your family. We need more people collecting. Thank you to the individual board members who have endorsed. I hope more of you will. There are school boards that are also endorsing as a school board. There's a couple so far, and others are having those conversations. So I'd encourage you to think about that, and happy to support that conversation. And those who are watching, keep talking. We're not going to get where this is only one piece of what we need, because we know that public schools are underfunded by more than $4.5 billion. So this is one piece. It's not a panacea, but we got to do all the things so you guys can do your jobs. So thanks. If you have any questions, though, about any of this, either of us are happy to answer. Yeah.
Thank you all very much. Any questions at this time? Okay. I think we'll reach out to you individually. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
President Feaster, I missed someone who had signed up for public commentary, and I wondered if we could call the
Sure.
gentleman up now before Aspire, if that's okay.
Sure.
And it is Mr. Mayhew. Come on up.
Yes.
Local government rocks. Thanks. Thank you so much. I'm Dirk Mayhew from Ann Arbor. Thanks for letting me speak. I'm here tonight because Tuesday I was in Washtenaw County Sheriff training for active shooter. I don't know if any of you guys have taken that, but it's pretty intense, it's kind of grim. And Sheriff Deputy Eugene Rush shared a lot of information that was kind of eye-opening. One of the things he said was that almost always there's somebody that knows ahead of time that the shooter's going to commit murder, a brother, a sister, a peer group member, and most of the time, more than one person knows. Victims usually know they're murderers. But that means that someone in our community, we've been lucky, but someone in our community ahead of time would know. That means we can stop it. It's cheap, it's simple. Deputy Eugene Rush had a lot of very on-point, simple criticism of public school policy and procedure. And I worry that we don't take advantage of some of those law enforcement techniques and procedures because, like the rest of the nation, we've become numb. Our version of numb is that we're lucky. Oxford is too far away, or the Chelsea school shooting was too long ago, and we're just riding that luck. But today is one of the days ahead of when our luck runs out. Tomorrow is another day when we could have done something. And I'm here tonight to ask that board or individuals reach out to the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Eugene Rush had a lot of really simple things to say, techniques that work. These are the law enforcement professionals with suggestions about how to deal with shooters. And their procedures, according to him, don't line up with ours. We have things to learn. It's available locally. You don't have to boil the ocean to get there. So that's my ask. Can somebody please work with the Sheriff's Office? At least get him to agree that your procedures are good. How about that? And thanks again for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we'll hear from Aspire.
Hi, members of the board. I'm here from Aspire. We also have a couple of other members that are here with us today. We are parents and caregivers in the Ann Arbor Public Schools who are committed to racial equity, and we want to thank you for your work on behalf of our students and families. We know that you've made difficult decisions. We deeply value the hours and energy that you dedicate to our schools. At the same time, we feel that it's essential to raise some concerns. Number one, the need for dedicated equity leadership. The district immediately needs dedicated equity leadership to ensure that the goals and strategic plan and authentic community engagement are met. Without staff whose primary role is advancing equity, we are falling short of our commitments to all of our children. Our thoughts on the climate survey and parent trust in the community. So some of us listened to the performance committee meeting, and the climate survey results underscore the urgency of the work that we are describing. While 82% of staff said that leaders are welcoming of families in all cultures, only 66% of families felt welcomed, and nearly 1 in 10 parents reported their child had experienced, personally, race or ethnicity-based discrimination. Even more concerning to us, 25 to 29% of secondary students report experiencing discrimination and harassment. 40% of secondary students reported witnessing it. What is being done to address this? What are you doing to identify groups of students experiencing this discrimination and harassment? When will you report back to the community on your findings so that we can discuss a path forward as a community? We heard you concerned about the low response rates. We share that concern, and we would also like you to consider that this might be a result of district and board choices. We heard an assumption that the low rate was because many people are happy and things are going well in the district. While that may be true, many parents we know chose specifically not to participate in the survey because on the second page, it required you to identify your child's school. This undermines trust and confidentiality. Many of us backed out and did not complete it. Combined with the board's recent efforts to restrict opportunities for parent comment, this gives the impression that parent voices are not welcome or wanted in this space. Please remove barriers to parent involvement in your decision-making process. And I'd also like to say, even today, we had parents who tried to sign up for public commentary and could not get through the form. So even today, the form was broken and people could not even sign up for public commentary to come here in person. And I also want to elevate that one of the parents that wanted to come cannot get here because they reasonably can't get here on public transportation. And I want to continue to highlight that switching to only in-person comments limits it to some of the most vulnerable community members that we have still to this day. Strategic plan collaboration and transparency. The strategic plan will only succeed if it is collaborative. Families, students, and staff must be included not only in the plan itself, but in the process of selecting the firm that will guide this work. A strategic plan designed without us will not be one that reflects our community's needs and values. We must begin to address our opportunity gaps more intentionally. We urge you to approach this work with openness, transparency, and genuine collaboration. Parents are eager to be partners with the district in creating schools where every child thrives, and we believe that listening to families will strengthen, not weaken our schools. Lastly, we want to address the comments on the CTE millage. Aspire enthusiastically supports the CTE millage. These programs are particularly powerful for Black and Brown students. Youth Policy Lab at Michigan found that Washtenaw County access to career and technical education programs is deeply unequal. White students in the county are more likely than their Black and Latino peers to have access to 10 or more CTE programs. Black students, on average, have access to 3 fewer programs than white students. Further, Advanced CTE found that students of color and low-income students who complete CTE programs are just as likely, if not more likely, to pursue post-secondary education as their peers. For students who may not see themselves on a traditional 4-year college track, CTE programs offer another way to build a future. In a diverse county like Washtenaw, this matters a lot. We know that racial and economic opportunity gaps persist in reading and math scores, graduation rates, and post-secondary access. While we should also continue to focus on closing these opportunity gaps, CTE helps close these gaps by offering a different kind of excellence rooted in skill, creativity, and real-world problem solving. When students see themselves succeeding in kitchens, construction sites, or coding labs, they start to believe in their own potential. Additionally, in our own county, this millage would free up money currently being used for CTE to focus on improving the gaps in core subjects. Thank you again for your commitment to our students and our families, and we hope you'll take these concerns as an invitation to work together toward a stronger, more inclusive future for AAPS.
Thank you all very much. I believe that brings us down to board committee reports. And the first one I see is the Equity and Inclusion Committee. Chair is Trustee Muhammad.
Yeah, so we met, it was September 30th, and we initially talked about the past work, the current work that has been going on when it comes to equity. Superintendent Parks went over with the equity education framework and how that was, how that was a guide, especially of how we make sure that people feel belonging, inclusive, and so on. And then we had a discussion about just generally, especially as there is work, hopefully moving forward about the strategic plan, how do we make sure we engage with the students and make sure that all student groups and all communities feel heard? We talked a little bit about the 5 student groups, but we also talked about what other groups that we can connect with. We talked about some of the barriers with engagement, especially under the current administration. There are groups are worried about ICE and worried about being in public spaces to meet. So we talked a little bit about that and just kind of brainstormed a little bit of what are some different approaches. We also talked about, I know we were going to talk about some of the criteria that we went from as a board for the search firm. And one, I believe Trustee Wilkins mentioned about it is important that not search firm, the firm that we're going to be using for the strategic plan is that how they communicate with different groups and what language and words are being used so that groups don't feel like we're just interacting with them as like a token effort, but more like actually, them feeling included in the process. And then we talked about, again, a little bit about kind of the barriers and some of the outcomes that are important that we include when we're interacting, measurables when we're interacting with these groups. So that's a little bit about what we talked about. But we're hoping that, I'm just presenting what we talked about, but I'm hoping that this would be a broader discussion, especially when we start looking at firms and their criteria and how we approach the strategic plan and intentionally making sure that we look at a more inclusive, equitable approach, especially with these 5 student groups that we always bring up. I don't know, did I miss anything, Trustee Wilkes or Wilkins? Is there anything else?
Can you just sort of clarify the 5 student groups? Are you talking about demographics? Can you be a little more specific?
Yeah, so it was definitely the groups that we always monitor when it comes to academic achievement, when it comes to discipline, when it comes to like all the reporting. And then it includes the Black student group, the Latino, the socioeconomic disadvantaged groups, the special education group, and then
ELL.
I should remember that. English language, English learners. But that's a great question.
Thank you, Trustee Muhammad. All right, no question. Next, I believe is the Executive Committee. We met very briefly to set the agenda for tonight's meeting and to discuss the agenda for the October 22nd meeting. We did discuss the possibility of adding some of the items the trustees have mentioned in the past to the agenda for those meetings. Superintendent Parks is still working to collect some data and put some things together, but we do want to address those items, which do include the cell phone policy and the broader question about the social media litigation, how that ties in with the cell phone policy. So those things will be coming to an agenda soon. And those are pretty much all the things that we addressed at the executive committee meeting for this meeting and the next meeting. Did I miss anything? All right. Seeing that I did not, I'll turn it over to Trustee Wilkerson for the Finance Committee.
Excellent. The Finance Committee met on Tuesday, September 30th at 9 a.m. We did an initial review of the literacy materials, which will be presented during first briefing tonight. And if you don't mind, I'll cover the Planning Committee.
Yes,
Point.
sure. Might as well do them both.
Planning Committee met on Tuesday, October 7th at 12 p.m. We had an initial discussion on the approach to strategic planning. So we looked at the draft planning process and the draft rubric for vendor selection and provided some feedback in that meeting.
Thank you very much, Trustee Wilkerson. And that leaves us with the Performance Committee, and I will turn it over to Vice President Schmidt for that update.
Okay, we met on Wednesday, October 1st. We had 2 reports that we reviewed. One was the Annual Culture and Climate Survey, and also the Student Achievement Annual Report. This evening, the board will be shown the Student Achievement Annual Report, so for the full board to talk about, ask questions, and a report about the Annual Culture and Climate Survey report will be forthcoming to the whole board.
Thank you, Trustee Schmidt. Seeing no questions, I will move down to the information section and Superintendent Parks, the superintendent update.
Thank you very much, President Feaster. I appreciate the opportunity to provide an update this evening to trustees and our community. We'll start out with our recognitions. This month is a recognition of National Principals Month, where we express gratitude for the dedication and service of our Ann Arbor Public Schools principals, who provide our students and families and staff members with their service in their communities each day. An effective school leader makes a significant difference in serving and supporting a school community. So we thank our leaders for their tireless efforts to strengthen and work alongside the school team while maintaining the school environment as a welcoming and safe place for all. So thank you to our Ann Arbor Public Schools principals for the positive and profound differences you continue to make in the lives of your students, your staff, and your families each day. The month of October is Filipino American History Month, which honors the history, culture, accomplishments, and legacy of Filipino Americans, the second largest Asian American group in the United States. In the Ann Arbor Public Schools, our teachers, librarians, and school teams highlight literature, picture books, and a variety of developmentally appropriate materials to honor and celebrate the Filipino experience, culture, history, and contributions. We are a much stronger school community and district community as we honor, embrace, and celebrate our diversity, continually create a culture of belonging for all, and value the connections that unite us in our inclusive community. October is also Head Start Awareness Month. This is a nationwide celebration highlighting the enduring national commitment to breaking the generational cycle of poverty by providing access to critical early childhood education and support to families in need. Head Start programs support children's growth from birth to age 5 through services that support early learning and development, health, and family well-being. Head Start is an effective investment that helps prepare all children, regardless of their circumstances at birth, for success in school. October 6th, so a couple of days ago, we celebrated World Cerebral Palsy Day. This global event aims to raise awareness of the millions of people worldwide diagnosed with cerebral palsy by promoting inclusion, challenging barriers, and advocating for a more accessible world. Cerebral palsy is the most common lifelong physical disability, but it remains one of the most overlooked and underfunded global health issues. The 2025 theme, Millions of Reasons, highlighted the diverse experiences and importance of support for individuals with cerebral palsy. We are a stronger community, again, as we honor and embrace and celebrate our differences, our diversity, and create a culture of belonging for all in our school communities. Many of our Ann Arbor Public Schools plan to engage their communities in National Walk and Roll to School Day tomorrow, October 9th. Throughout October, school communities are using this focus to encourage safer routes to school and to inspire children and families to be more active. Next, we would like to congratulate WINE's Project Lead the Way teacher, Sarah Shemansky. Sarah Shemansky has been named a 2025-2026 Outstanding PLTW Teacher. This award recognizes outstanding educational leaders across the United States for their commitment to providing students with meaningful learning experiences through Project Lead the Way programs. Ms. Shemansky was one of 16 PLTW launch teachers nationwide to receive this recognition. There she is on the screen there. PLTW is honoring Sarah Shemansky for her work in the PLTW launch pathway. Sarah has been a teacher at WINES. She was also previously at Carpenter and Dickett Elementary as well for 10 years. Sarah has co-led our PLTW launch team and supports our Ann Arbor Public Schools work in our PLTW programs Y5 through 12. She as well supports our CTE programs. So congratulations to Ms. Shemansky. We have a quote here from the president of PLTW. He says, "Every day, educators show up to make an important and life-changing difference in the lives of young people and communities all across our country. They build on students' natural curiosity and inspire confidence while helping prepare them for a range of life opportunities and experiences. PLTW is proud to honor and celebrate extraordinary educators each year through our National Awards program, and we here in the Ann Arbor Public Schools are very proud of Miss Sarah Shemansky." Retired Ann Arbor Public Schools educator honored by a Michigan Alliance for Environmental and Outdoor Education. So last weekend, Dave Siegel was honored during the Michigan Alliance for Environmental and Outdoor Education annual conference when he was awarded the William Stapp Environmental Education Award, which is MAEOE's highest honor in the field of environmental education. Mr. Siegel retired from Ann Arbor Public Schools in 2024 after serving in the district for 38 years. For 28 of those years, he worked in the district's environmental education program, where he led tens of thousands of students on field trips to explore and get hands-on learning about nature. The award is named for Dr. Bill Stapp, who is often credited as a founder of environmental education and who helped launch the AAPS environmental education program in 1959. The statewide professional organization honoring Mr. Siegel's lifetime of service and significant contributions to environmental education in Ann Arbor is a proud moment for AAPS, and the fact that the award is named for Dr. Stapp makes it even more special. So congratulations to Mr. Siegel. And lastly, we want to remind our community of our AAPS early fall break for students and staff, which is coming up on October 10th, this Friday, and Monday, October 13th. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Superintendent Parks. If there's no questions on her report, then I will turn it back over to Superintendent Parks for the Student Achievement Annual Report for 2024-2025.
Thank you very much, President Feaster. We have Ms. Linden, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, coming forward, also with Dr. Dan Berger, who will be sharing the Fall 2025 Student Achievement Annual Report this evening. This report is a highlight of the results from our MSTEP, PSAT, and SAT achievement data that I'll turn it over to Dr. Berger and Ms. Linden to walk us through.
Thank you very much. Good evening, President Feaster, trustees, and Superintendent Parks. It's our pleasure to bring forward the Fall Student Achievement Report. This represents the results of the spring assessments for MSTEP, PSAT, and SAT. As we did last year, Dr. Berger is going to walk you through all of those data slides and take any questions you may have, and then we'll wrap with some next steps. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Parks. So much like we did last year, we're going to walk through the MSTEP, PSAT 8, and SAT results. A few slides just to give you some context and some reminders about the testing. So the state of Michigan mandates a set of 20 content-specific summative tests for students. They're listed in the table that you can see on the slides here. There's the MSTEP for English Language Arts grades 3 through 7 and math grades 3 through 7. For science grades 5, 8, and 11. And for social studies in grades 5, 8, and 11. The PSAT 8 is used to assess reading, writing, and math in grade 8. And the SAT is used to assess reading, writing, and math in grade 11. So together, this is a set of 20 content-specific tests. The other state test requirements that we will not be talking about this evening are the WIDA test, which is looking at English language acquisition for English learners in the district, and the MyAccess tests, which are for students whose IEP says they need to take an alternative to the regular MSTEP, PSAT 8, SAT test. Go on to the next slide, please. So a little bit of context, the MSTEP, SAT, and PSAT are given once a year. They represent just a single snapshot at one moment in time on that one day. So, you know, if a student's having a bad day, they might not do well. If they're having a great day, they might do well. But we figure if we take the average of all the students' results together, we get a pretty good idea of how we're doing on those things. We do, though, know that there is some bias on standardized assessments that is present in the writing of them. So, you know, I just want to forward that. That is a true statement that we know. So we know that that's a weakness of these tests. We also know that sometimes the high stakes nature of the assessments can create difficulties in the measurement. Students might be more nervous about these assessments than another one because it's this big thing that's once a year. So it can create some difficulties. But nevertheless, despite all these things, the assessments are a carefully conceived measure monitored over time across all of our students. And they serve, importantly, as a way that we can measure how well our system is serving those students. And via disaggregation, we can see how well we are serving specific groups of students. So we can monitor that over time, and we can look at that in a single snapshot moment. If we go to the next slide. And a final note, you know, what we're presenting here is not cohort data. It doesn't represent individual student growth. The results represent different groups of students in different years. So if we're looking at the 2023 third grade math test versus the 2024 third grade math test versus the 2025 most recent third grade math test, we know that those are different groups of third graders. They're totally different students. And so, you know, when we do comparisons, we do track and see like, how are we doing for third graders over time? But there's always some variance in different student groups. So we don't want to look at it too carefully as this group of students from third grade to third grade because it's not the same group of students. So just wanted to bring that in your mind as well. So with all of those caveats out of the way, we'll jump in here. And the first table is looking at kind of the overall results for all students from 10,000 foot view. And so we're looking at these 20 tests that were listed on the front slide. And for each of these, we're looking at the percent at or above what the state says is the proficiency level on that 2025 spring testing. So that's the bold part that you see in the bold columns. And then, of course, the number of students assessed is there. Generally, it is, around 1,200-ish in most of our grade levels. So you can see that overall, we increased our percent of students who are proficient in a given grade level from 2024 to 2025 in 13 of the 20 tests. So 65% of the tests we increased. That's actually better than we did from 23 to 24 when we increased in 11 or 55% of the tests. And those are marked with stars on this table. So if you look, for example, at M-STEP grade 5 ELA, you can see that 63.6% has an asterisk next to it, a star, and that says that that's an increase from the percent of students who are proficient in the prior year in 2024 at that grade level and subject area. On top of that, we also had 6 tests, or 30% of the tests, and those are denoted by the plus sign here, where it was the second year in a row that we saw an increase in the percent of students who were proficient. So overall, 65% of the tests we saw an increase, and in some of the 30% of the tests, that was a 2-year increase that we're tracking 1 year to the next. And then, so we're going to look at this in several ways. That was us compared to ourselves last year. What this next plot shows is Ann Arbor Public Schools results compared to the state of Michigan as a whole and to our ISD, our intermediate school district that we were a part of, the Washtenaw ISD. I'm going to talk about this one a little carefully because you will see a chart that looks a lot like this one many times later. So if you look at the plot that you have in front of you, the green dots represent the percentage of students who are advanced or proficient for the whole entire state of Michigan. The purple dots represent the Washtenaw ISD, but I have removed the Ann Arbor Public School results from that, so it's just the rest of the ISD. So the ISD minus us are what the purple dots represent, and that's it does say that in the legend. It's the Washtenaw ISD without AAPS. And then the blue dots are our results, which match what we just saw with the percent of students who were proficient or advanced in each of these 20 subject areas. You can see that if we look at these overall results, the Ann Arbor Public Schools continues to perform at higher levels overall than the state and the intermediate school district on the entire battery of Michigan state tests. Our dot has, our students are reaching a higher percent proficient or advanced than the ISD or the state. So that is an overall result. If we go to the next slide, this slide is a little busy, but I think it's useful. And this slide is showing us our results for 2025 in the Ann Arbor Public Schools, broken down by different student demographic groups. So if you look at the table, or I'm sorry, the display here, the large blue dots will match what you saw in the blue dots in the last one. That's the overall all students results. And then we have a bunch of smaller dots and diamonds that represent different student demographic groups. The round dots represent a race or ethnicity group, and the diamonds represent another demographic group. So you can see, for example, the purple diamonds represent the economically disadvantaged students, the kind of bluish teal diamonds represent English learners, and the black diamonds represent students with disabilities. If you look at this chart, you can see that, unfortunately, we continue to see wide disparities in performance by student demographics. You can see if you kind of look at this overall across the 20 tests, there are certain groups that we see are above the all students regularly, and there are certain groups of students demographically, specifically our 5 focus groups, Hispanic Latino students, Black or African American students, economically disadvantaged students, English learners, and students with disabilities who are below the all students. So you can see these gaps that we still have, that we're still working to try to ameliorate. If we go on to the next slide, actually, I put these here for you. We're not going to talk about these carefully right now, but these are just the actual raw number percentages from everything that you just saw on the prior slide. I know sometimes it's hard to look at the dots and say what exactly that percentage is, but it's all here for you in this slide, and if you go on to the next one, in this slide as well. So if you want the actual raw numbers, they're all there. But the next thing we're going to look at is the Ann Arbor Public Schools compared to the state and the ISD, but within each of these student demographic groups. So the first plot you see here is comparing Asian students in the state of Michigan, the Washington ISD without us, to the Ann Arbor Public Schools. And you can see that the Ann Arbor Public Schools continue to perform higher than the state and intermediate school district on the entire battery of Michigan standardized tests for Asian students. Go to the next slide, please. We generally perform higher than the state and intermediate school district for most tests for Black or African American students, although you'll note that the ISD is close to or outpaces us in a couple of the tests, specifically looking at grade 7 M-STEP ELA. You can see that the purple dot's a little bit ahead of ours. They're pretty much right with us for grade 5 science M-STEP. They're a little ahead of us for grade 11 science M-STEP. So overall, we are still outpacing the state and the ISD, but not quite by as much as we did for the prior demographic group. We go to the next slide. Ann Arbor performs higher than the state and the intermediate school district for most tests for Hispanic and Latino students. There's one case you can see grade 11 M-STEP science where the ISD outpaces us, and it's a little bit closer to our results for 11th grade in general. If you go on to the next slide. Ann Arbor performs higher than the state and the ISD on most tests for students of 2 or more races, although the ISD is close. And again, in one case, specifically, again, it's that M-STEP grade 11 science that the ISD outpaced us. Moving on to the next slide. You can see that we continue to perform better than the state and the ISD on the entire battery of Michigan's tests for white students. Moving on to the next slide. We perform higher than the state or intermediate school district for most tests for economically disadvantaged students, although, we're higher percentages proficient than the ISD on all the tests, but the state actually outpaced us on both of the grade 3 tests for math and ELA, and on 2 of the grade 5 tests. Specifically, that was grade 5, I lost my notes here, grade 5 ELA, thank you. And it was social studies. So the next slide is English learners. You can see again, we tend to outpace the state and the ISD. Although the state outpaced us for grade 3 and grade 5 ELA tests, English language arts tests. Continuing to the next slide. We performed higher than the state or intermediate school district on all the tests for students with disabilities, with the exception of the grade 3 mathematics tests. You can see the ISD's just a little tiny bit ahead of us on that. So in summary, our 20-25% proficient or advanced on state assessments increased on 65% of the grade level subjects tested between 2024 and 2025. The average increase across those 13 areas was 4.9 percentage points, or almost 5 percentage points. And for 30% of those tests, or 6 of them, that's 2 years in a row of increases. Of course, this means that our proficiency levels fell on 35% of the tests, which is, something that we need to work on. The average fall, the average drop of the percent proficient was negative 2 percentage points, so about 2 percentage points less on average for those other 7 tests. We unfortunately still see relatively large and predictable achievement gaps in our results by student demographics, specifically for Black African American students, Hispanic Latino students, economically disadvantaged students, English learners, and students with disabilities. And we generally outpace both the state of Michigan and our local ISD across grade level subjects, although we do less well comparatively for those 5 groups than the other groups. So we're closer to, or in some cases being outpaced by the state or the ISD. We're doing less well for those groups comparatively. And that's the end of the data piece, so I will turn it over to Ms. Linden for next steps.
Before we move to next steps, are there any questions about the data? Or the slides, the charts? Yes.
So I know I asked this before during the performance committee, but it would help still. I know that you couldn't turn it around in a short amount of time, but to have the percentage changes, not just overall, but even within those student groups to see, are they increasing? I think that's important for us to look at and especially see where those gaps are because obviously they are I know there's a lot of work around, and I know that's your part, but there's a lot of work around trying to address those gaps. But we've been seeing these gaps for many years. And then, yeah, I think that's the big thing, is just trying to see the difference.
Trustee Wilkes.
Yeah, I had a question with slide number 5. If you could go back to slide number 5. So many of these numbers, once we get there, so many of these numbers indicate an increase in proficiency advanced level compared to 2024 and 2023. But do any of these numbers indicate a decrease or no change? So again, on slide 5.
No, we got it.
Because some of the numbers don't have a plus or an asterisk.
Yeah.
So for example, ELA, M-STEP, third grade, 56.3%. What does that number represent? Does that represent holding steady? Does that represent a decrease? What does it show?
So none of the results were identical to 2024. So any that does not have an asterisk or a plus sign, those are the 7 where we saw a decrease. Now, that decrease in, the smallest case, it was a decrease of 0.1 percentage points. And in the largest case, I think it was a decrease of a little over 5 percentage points. But all the ones that do not have a star or a plus sign are a decrease of some amount. And the average decrease across those 7 was negative 2 percentage points.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Of course.
Trustee Wilkins.
Do we have any data on whether there are more and more students opting out, especially at the SAT level, now that more colleges are test optional? And
So because these are state mandated tests, there is no option for opting out of these tests. The state of Michigan does not allow any option. It is possible that somebody could just not show up to school and refuse to take it.
Right.
But in general, our percentage of students who are taking the test is always well above 95%.
Okay.
There's not sort of a formal opt-out because the state says that you can't have an opt-out for these tests.
Okay. And my other question was, you mentioned there were 2 groups that this wasn't represented. One of them was students with IEPs that have extra allowances for test taking. So are those not included in these numbers?
Students with IEPs are the students with disabilities that are included in these numbers.
Okay.
Specifically, the group of students that are not included here are the students whose IEP says that they can't even take this specific M-STEP or these tests, and they take a separate test called the My Access.
Okay.
So that's actually a pretty small number of students overall. It's maybe around 0.5% of our total population. It's less than 100 students who took the My Access instead of one of the other standardized tests last year.
Okay.
And the other group, it wasn't that a group was missing, it was that a test we are not reporting on, and that is the WIDA test, which is a separate test that is used to measure the English language acquisition of our EL students.
Yep.
Trustee Schmidt.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on that. So back when M-STEP, maybe it was another test. They've changed names over the years. In high school, they actually gave an award of $2,000 or something if you took it, the high schoolers. Go back. Yeah, I know. Because the numbers were so low, kids were like, I don't need to take this. And the state wanted to evaluate what was going on in schools. They were like, I take the ACT. So then, of course, this all started. ACT and now it's SAT. But when we look at these numbers, and you go back to that slide if you would. Are we there? No, sorry. You might as well just keep it up. When we say okay, let's look at PSAT. I'm looking at 11th grade.
So the SAT, lower right corner.
57.7% were proficient. That's 57.7% of the students that took it. Yes?
Correct.
I think knowing how many students didn't take it, because I suspect there are students that aren't taking it. I don't care that it's required, but I can imagine if a student doesn't plan on going to college, unless we're saying you can't get your diploma unless you take this, I'd really want to know, do we have students that aren't doing it? And the reason I ask that is that if we have a number of students that perhaps wouldn't do well and they're not taking it, it kind of skews the percentage and the increase. Do you follow me?
I do. If I'm not mistaken, board policy actually does say that the students must take it to receive their diploma.
Okay.
So the MME, of which this is part of the Michigan Merit Examination.
So then I'm going to add another layer to this. If I'm a senior and I'm not going to college, I don't give a rat's rear about that test. I have to take it, ding, ding, ding. So it's just that this data, we have to always think about, what are the unintended things that are happening, and we're putting so much weight on this snapshot. There's a lot of other things happening. I want to connect to another thing. So I'm looking at the amount of testing that happens. And when I was at Scarlett, I figured it was 6 weeks of instruction that was interrupted by testing I had to do in my classroom. Because if a child missed one day, the next day, they had to be pulled out of class. It was ridiculous, because you have the NWEA 3 times a year. In 8th grade or 5th grade, they have the math, ELA, science, social studies, MSTEP, then they have NWEA 3 times a year. Think about all that testing and how much instructional time is being sucked out of our classroom. And I know some of these things are required right now with benchmark assessments and such, but especially in the spring, when we look at when these MSTEPs hit, these kids are so tested out in the spring window, especially our 8th graders. There's so many tests they take in the spring. It's like, oh God, it's an NWA day. Oh, it's an MSTEP day. We're not seeing the really best that they can give us, I don't think. So it's very different than when all of us were in school. We weren't tested so much, and the kids become desensitized in many ways with these tests. So we really have to be mindful of when we look at this data. It is just a snapshot, but I don't think it tells us a lot about what's going on.
Go Trustee Wilkerson first, and then Trustee Muhammad.
All right, 2 quick questions. The WIDA test and My Access, we don't include those. Is there a reason why we don't report on those?
We never have.
Well, it's a great question. We do monitor WIDA very carefully. We're looking for how students are growing through the program, their scores changing. We're also looking to see the number of students who are exiting. So we use that data building by building. Huda Harajli, our director, and her team, they visit the buildings. They meet regularly with the EL team and the principals to review those data points. And when things aren't moving along, there are always interventions and things they work together to solve, but we have never brought a WIDA report to the board.
Okay.
We could do that.
Yeah, I think that would be an important perspective as we think about, our new literacy programs that we're going to talk about later today, to see the impact of those for that specific subgroup. And then another question is, all of these exams or tests are evolving year over year, right? So even though there's certain percentage decreases, it doesn't mean the test was the exact same. From a comprehension standpoint, it could be a bit different, more challenging exam from year to year as well. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that can be true. They also adjust the cut score for proficiency every year. So that's, I would say every year, but they do adjust that cut score regularly based on what the data is showing.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's sort of a trust the psychometricians moment, I think.
Right.
Trustee Muhammad?
Yeah, I wanted to, I know Trustee Schmidt made some really good points, because there is definitely over-testing, and you're taking 1 point at a time. I think that's why it's important to look at trends.
Yes.
So, and that's why, I'm looking at this data, but it's, I don't know. It's good to see that there is a very small change and shift, but just seeing kind of over time what's happening, especially in these five student groups. But I just wanted to echo some of the points that Trustee Schmidt made.
Trustee Schmidt again?
Yeah, sorry, I get a little worked up about this. So politically, there have been some really very interesting things that have happened over the last 20 years in education, to the point where the political move is, let's make public schools more accountable to the point of removing instructional time. So think about how nonsensical that is. We have less time to teach. We're doing more testing with that time. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. And the move was, there was a political move to try to make public schools look bad by doing all this. And it's really, it is important for us, I think, as education leaders, that we need to continue to talk to the people that are making these decisions at the state level, that we have to balance trying to have accountability and testing without really taking away instructional time. We also added professional development to be done now during the school year. And a lot of school districts are taking professional development time for the teachers, and that's taking instructional time away. So, I mean, you just, it was 180 days of instruction. It's not 180 days of instruction anymore. That's not happening because you remove all those days that we do tests, days that are professional development. I mean, so we need to continue to, talk to legislators because they're calling the shots on how this goes for our children.
Thank you, Trustee Schmidt. Trustee Wilkes?
Yeah, I'd just like to sort of piggyback on what you just said, Trustee Schmidt. So the outgoing state superintendent just recently said that that the current instructional times have decreased. It used to be 180 days, and I believe for Ann Arbor, the minimum instruction time was a self-imposed 182 days. I do believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Superintendent Parks.
We have 177 instructional days and 4 professional development days that can be counted as instructional days.
Okay.
So a total of 181.
181? Okay. So I guess my point is that like what Trustee Schmidt was saying is that we're seeing fewer instructional hours for our students. And how does that play a role in what we're seeing? And I believe that as a highly effective board, we don't want to blame things such as poverty and, we don't want to go that route. We really want to look at what sources or what contributing factors outside of our control are not necessary, or what's within our control that we can fix. What initiatives can we put in place?
Absolutely.
And I do believe that that's what we're going to talk about soon, next steps, which I'm
segue.
really looking forward to that.
Great. Thank you very much for your comments and questions. I think we share the concern in the data. I do think the trend data is helpful. Trustee Muhammad, thank you for raising that here as well. I will tell you that to see those, 13 areas, Dan, where we've seen increases over 2 years, and these are separate cohorts improving, that does point to some changes that we are making in the system that could be having that positive impact, cohort after cohort. We'll know more as we see the trend data improving in year 3 and year 4. But it is significant to see almost 5% increase on average in areas like that. Typically, when you're writing a district improvement plan, you're saying, as a stretch target, we want to see 5% increase. So that is positive news for us. However, when you dig into the data and you look at who is proficient, and we look at our demographics and our ethnicity groups, our joy at that quickly falls because we haven't made the headway that we should be making. So we continue to work really hard in just about every single area that would impact students and their well-being and their achievement. You may recall that last year we had a far more comprehensive follow-up set of slides to Dr. Berger's data where we talked about attendance and we talked about SEL and we brought in a whole lot of slides to demonstrate the new curriculum we've brought forward in SEL. We didn't do that this time. We wanted to focus our attention this time on those initiatives that are newer or in this ongoing implementation phase. But we can talk about any of those things as the trustees wish. So we chose to highlight tonight the district-wide professional learning focus that's taking place over a 3-year path to dovetail relationships and routines, which really are the gateway to student achievement and engagement. and the transparency of learning goals and success criteria so that students can be far more engaged instead of learning blind in the classroom. They know where they're going, they know whether they're successful in it and what they need to do next. So really clarifying those things. It's a big deal for us as a district. We have done some district-wide focus for professional learning, but there has always been a building level focus in competition with that. And we have operated that way for a while to honor the individuality in the buildings and the needs that are happening building by building. But this really marks the first time that we're allowing the entire district and the teams at the schools to focus on this and only this. So we're really hoping that by the end of this year, we can move into some more supportive and accountability pieces around this work, really start surveying students more about their experiences. Has it changed for you? Do you feel yourself more engaged? Looking to see if the attendance has been impacted by this district-wide focus. And you may recall I shared some of those professional learning books with you earlier this year. So that's something in my time here that we have never done. And I'm very grateful for the district administrative team who helped set this focus for us, and our teaching and learning team who are both working together on the curriculum design days and the staff meeting days to keep the foot on the gas of this work. Because as you know, we actually only have during the school year 2 days of professional learning. The other 2 days happen in August before we begin school. So that's a big deal. A while back when we were talking about professional learning, you heard from Casey Elmore, the principal of Skyline, about the cell phone policy that has been put in place there. So we're carefully monitoring those interventions. We're very proud of the results that we're seeing from that. So we're hoping that that element and that newer implementation will also have a positive impact on student achievement. We're also proud that our partners with the AAEA, we are working together to develop a student classroom feedback survey that we will pilot this spring. And we will be engaging with our middle school students at each of our middle schools from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade to help us develop the questions. We're going to center the voices of students from student groups that we have not served well historically in the district, and they're going to help us ask the right questions. So we look forward to bringing an update to the Board of Education as those surveys get developed by our very wise students and our wonderful teachers who choose to pilot that with us. Will be likely here with us sharing those data points as we get those underway. And I want to thank our partners with the AAEA for working together with us on that. So those are some overall student engagement strategies. Similarly, those attendance strategies that I know Dr. Hayward and Ms. Melita Alston have shared with you are ongoing. That work continues daily to get our students into school. But just as a reminder, last year we shared the attendance rates pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. And this is just a quick reminder that pre-pandemic compared to post-pandemic, we saw an increase of 11.2 on average days of absence per student. So that is a significant increase in lost school days. And it's very concerning. So as a result of some of those data and the achievement data, we have been carefully monitoring. Dr. Berger, administrative teams, our MTSS team, all got together to develop that early warning system so that we can intervene quickly. So you may recall every single month the buildings receive reports from Dr. Berger on attendance, who's coming, who's not, who's being flagged as someone we need to reach out to immediately because they're on track to hit targets we don't want our students to hit when it comes to missed days. We also at grade points when terms end or semesters end, those grade reports are going out. So we're looking to see students who are on track to be successful in class and those who may not, and those are more flags. So those flags help us to identify students who have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 factors that really mean they need some adult intervention. And a lot of that is really individualized. So I want to thank our school counseling teams, our social workers, our building principals, and all of our educators who are busy monitoring for that and doing all that individualized outreach and support for our kids. So moving on, when it comes to English language arts, you're going to hear more tonight from me. But we're very proud of a transformation that's been going on for the last several years. So this year marks the full implementation of our Arts and Letters reading and writing program. And we really, really look forward to sharing MSTEP data from this coming spring, MSTEP 2026. We expect to see small incremental improvements, but as students progress year after year through the elementary program, they're going to be some of the best writers y'all have ever seen. So we're psyched about sharing that with you. So that transformation continues, and tonight you'll hear about a special differentiation component that we're going to bring forward with grant funding. You may not know that our secondary literacy intervention teachers, those who teach English Plus, academic literacy, have been and are being trained in AARI, that's an adolescent accelerated reading inventory. Our teachers are really working hard to help build knowledge and build comprehension while also supporting students who may need more of those early literacy development skills. So I especially want to thank those educators and Terry Anderson, who's been leading that work in the district. Letters training continues. We now have nearly 200 teachers, 198 by last count, and there's another cohort proceeding through letters training. It's a very intensive set of training. Our goal is to continue until every single teacher has been through this training. It is voluntary, so again, I need to thank all of our educators who've come through that training. It does take multiple years to complete, and it's transformational for our educators, but it's also a lot of work. So thank you to those nearly 200 educators who have completed letters training. And we have heard Trustee Schmidt mention the power of an Orton-Gillingham training. We're very proud that that training continues. And Trustee Schmidt, thank you for your support with that as well for funding. We now have nearly 200 teachers trained in Orton-Gillingham as well. I'm sorry, 100. We have nearly 100 teachers trained in Orton-Gillingham. I wish it were 200, with nearly 100. And then another piece that is ongoing, we're about in mid-transformation. You may recall we have shared with you secondary literacy novels, which are used in our English Lit courses in the District 612, have been for the last 3 years undergoing a complete transformation to ensure that the texts that students are engaged in are actually of relevance and interest to them, so that they're representative of the students who are participating, and we're extremely proud of that work. And on the next slide, we just have a couple more areas to focus on. In the area of mathematics, at the elementary level, we do continue to use the Everyday Math program. We are in the 4th edition, which is the newer edition. We still believe in that program and the power of that program, and we know that it hasn't been enough. It's not a one-size-fits-all. So we have been working through grant funding to train our general education teachers in Advantage Math Recovery, or AVMR. It also is a pretty intensive thing for them to go through. They have to not only go through the learning process, which is intense, but they have lots of homework. So when they come back from the training, they have to implement those strategies, document, videotape, bring back evidence of their implementation of this to move on to the next phase. But as they complete it, our educators overwhelmingly are saying it has changed the way they teach mathematics, far more focused on the conceptual understandings for students and building up toward those more complex concepts in ways that really stick. So we're really, really proud of our teachers who've been working through that process, and Ms. Siobhan Watson, who's been leading that program. We continue to use Dreambox. Dr. Berger did a recent, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, study on the impact of Dreambox in our district, because we want to expend our monetary resources in ways that are effective for students. And we know that it has a powerful impact in improving student achievement. So we're going to continue to invest in that and support our students in using it. And then, of course, we will be looking at the adoption of some new middle school math curriculum over the next several years. It's a big deal to adopt new programming. The middle school has not seen a new adoption of math curriculum in several years, so that's just something on the horizon for us. And finally, I have to thank our instructional technology department and our instructional technology consultants for all the work they're doing to help improve access for students in our district. You heard Dr. Heather Kellstrom talk about the implementation of MacBook Airs for our high schoolers. That's been a really powerful piece. We continue to invest heavily in Schoology, particularly with the attendance rates that we are seeing. So as students miss school, they've got to be able to have access to what went on in class. So again, really powerful that we have that. Access tools for text-to-speech, speech-to-text, much better translation capabilities now. And then we also have the Varsity Tutors on-demand homework help, which is available 24/7, and that's available to any student through Clever. So that's something fairly new for us. And then newer, just coming out, are better ways for families to monitor how our students are doing. And that is the My Power Hub, which is this improved view for families to be able to easily see attendance and assignments and all the lovely things through widgets or tiles. So Dr. Kellstrom will be sharing more about that, but we're excited about some of those elements. This is not nearly everything we are doing. We could go on for many hours to talk about it, and we should. But much of the individualized approach is really due to our exceptional educators, and we have to do more. So I'm happy to take your questions.
Trustee Schmidt.
Could you go back a slide? Just an update. The Orton-Gillingham money, it's 35D in the state budget, was not put in the budget this year. That money's not available. And I hope we as a board in our leadership position that somehow we had 60 people signed up for this training. The cohort now is 30, and there's 30 teachers that want to take this training, but the money now is not there from the state. So I hope that we find a way. This is, it's just a life-changing experience because they become highly trained. And I know the group that's doing it right now are special ed teachers, and they're going to end up with the most difficult cases of children that have dyslexia or characteristics of. And we know that without reading, you can't access the rest of the curriculum, so it's very important. The other point I'd like to raise is that the letters training, I really applaud the teachers that are taking that on. It's intensive, but what we have to remember is that letters training is only the basics of what the peer review research shows in cognitive science of how the reading brain works. It doesn't necessarily mean that once you take that, you change your practice. So the fact that we invested in the good curriculum materials that our teachers are using UFly and Great Minds, that's where it all comes together.
That's right.
I have some questions, though, about, I know that the law that passed, that will be kicking in by January 2027, that if we see students, and it goes all the way to 12th grade, that have some indicators that they have some difficulties with decoding words, which are characteristics of dyslexia, that we're required to use structured literacy with them.
Correct.
And that doesn't mean that they're not on an IEP. We still have to. And I was just looking up the AARI. That's a program that works a lot on critical thinking, reading comprehension. I just hope we have some things in place for our secondary that we're addressing that. If a child can't read it, you can talk all day and night about comprehension, but they can't read the words.
Yeah, it's a both and
You know.
situation.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, Trustee Schmidt.
Trustee Muhammad.
So I wanted to ask, especially with the secondary, I think it was like the math support, or I think it was it was for support for secondary for math, math program or support. How does that look like in practice? Like I know that there were, for secondary schools, especially middle schools, there were like support classes.
Oh, yes.
So I guess how does that look like? Because I know that, did that shift? Did that change? Is it more integrated? How does that look like?
I would say to you that we have become far more consistent in the way we implement that intervention. So we have adopted the Delta Math RTI program, which is a set of 8 units specifically designed to support students at the point where they have that need. So students do receive that through academic math courses. They also have the opportunity in 9th grade or 10th grade or 11th grade, if need be, to be assigned intensified algebra, which is a 2-hour block, much smaller group of students, to really solidify those algebraic concepts that are really important for students to pass geometry and algebra 2. So those are two of the systemic elements that we have in place. Well, 3, if you count by course.
So they're integrated, not like a completely separate course.
No, they are separate intervention courses
So they
that
are.
students are scheduled into, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Trustee Wilkes.
I just have a quick comment. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the results from the pilot of student classroom feedback.
too.
And I also think that those results will sort of dovetail with what we're going to be talking about, the culture and climate survey.
Agreed.
Which I guess we're going to be talking about sometime in the near future. So it's going to be really interesting to see how those two coincide.
I completely agree. I think it's really important that student voices have a space that is safe for them to share how it's going for them. And as an educator myself, I can tell you that there were times when I thought I was knocking it out of the park in my classroom. Really had a great relationship with my kids, and they were doing wonderfully. And I'll tell you a very short story. When I was teaching middle school, one of my quieter students, had dropped a note. This is back before texting and cell phones. Dropped a note on the floor of the classroom on her way out, and I didn't find it until well after the class was over. And of course I read it. I probably shouldn't have, but I read it, and and in the note she said, "I have Mrs. Linden again this year, and I still hate her." And I thought, wow, I thought I had a great rapport with this student. And, clearly she was not feeling the same way. So I gently, asked her about it and said, I apologize if I'm doing something. Is the class not engaging for you? What can I be doing differently? And, very reluctantly, she said to me, "You have favorites in here. You always joke with these kids." And she named them. And she said, "You never joke around with me." And here I thought I was showing the class that I valued them as human beings, and I, had a sense of humor, but it was having the opposite effect than I intended. And thank goodness I picked up the note. But these are things that are really excellent educators can't know unless we ask, unless there's an avenue. That was a mistake that she made, but thank goodness she did. So I share that just to say none of us is perfect. We are all doing the best we can, and without feedback, how do we improve? How do we know?
Absolutely.
So it's important.
And it goes back to relationships as well.
Yeah.
So all of the above.
100%.
And one of the things that we talked about in the committee when we brought forward both the achievement report and the climate survey is that there is a significant overlap between those two things. Climate and culture,
They go hand in
achievement go hand in hand. And what are some of the common areas that we can really identify to be able to address, because one impacts the other.
Yeah. And I also believe that the culture and the climate impacts absenteeism.
For sure.
Absolutely
engagement.
does.
And engagement,
And
absolutely.
the opposite is also true.
Yes. Yeah.
So in the committee, I shared another story of a teacher in our district right now who has one of the most student-driven classrooms we've seen at the elementary level, where the students own morning meeting. They're in charge of it. They plan it. They're on a schedule. When it's their day, they run it, which is so incredible. And that teacher has actually reached, at this point in the school year, 100% attendance right now in a Title I school. So there is something to be said for ownership and agency and voice. Those things are, they're important.
Like this classroom can't run without you being here. It's not
We
just
need
about the
you.
teacher running it. Yeah, we need you. Absolutely.
Trustee Bescott.
Thank you. I look forward to hearing about this climate study survey, as well as understanding the acceptance, the willing to take feedback on the teacher side. I mean,
Yes.
that was something for you, to accept the fact that something's not right, and you took the pro action to address it. We know We know there are adults in our climate who aren't as accepting, who aren't willing to take that. So with again, I don't want to discuss this because it's not on the agenda, but one of the things I look forward to hearing is how will we utilize this data with the adults in our buildings. It's something for a student to offer the feedback. Sometimes students do it more often than we would think, but we have to be willing to accept that it's given and how do we address it and incorporate the changes. There've got to be some changes here. I mean, we look at this data, and I don't think, we're very happy with it.
No, we're not.
So that means that we have to make some changes and tough decisions, if you will. So when we bring this forward, I look forward to having a discussion at that level.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much.
Appreciate it.
And I believe that brings us down to number 9, which is first briefing. First briefing of AN 2241 high quality literacy materials, Great Minds purchase recommendation 35M grant.
Thank you, President Feaster. As Ms. Linden gets settled there, this grant, last school year, the Michigan Department of Education awarded $87 million for the creation of a committee for literacy achievement for them to develop some recommended materials. And we were awarded of that $1.5 million to purchase some materials. So Ms. Linden is going to talk through our recommended purchase this evening out of this 35M grant that we have received.
Thank you.
Oh, and I'm
very
sorry,
much.
we've got Ms. Kristen Davis on the screen here too.
Pleasure.
Good evening.
We are thrilled to share good news with you at this moment with as
Kristen Smith.
superintendent.
Sorry, Kristen
Parks.
Smith.
Oh, yep. I'll
Pardon me.
introduce her. No worries. We have been granted $1,532,096 for the purpose of supporting K-5 literacy in our district. And I'm joined tonight by Kristen Smith. She is our English, I'm saying English language arts, Kristen, and science coordinator, if I can get it out, K-5 in our district. And you've seen her many times because she is just extraordinary in the leadership that she has brought to this role and to our district and the transformation of our literacy programs, K-5. So Ms. Smith, on behalf of everyone here, I just want to say thanks for everything you have done. So tonight we're bringing forward a recommendation for purchase of 2 elements that will support us in differentiating instruction for our students. The first is Geodes. It's a level K-3 classroom kit. And the next is Great Minds volume of reading. And the professional learning is also included in this. So Kristen is going to take it away after I walk you through the breakdown of the costs. So tonight we're asking for your approval to purchase Great Minds Geodes and Wit and Wisdom volume of reading materials. The quote reads $1,508,076 for those materials. It also reads for professional services, $21,220, and 1 year of digital licensing at $3 million. The total we're asking for to be authorized for payment is $1,532,296. And there's about a $917 difference between the quote and what the grant has been allocated. We have allocated the quote to provide equitable kits to all elementaries, but we'd like your authorization to also spend the additional $900 where an extra kit or 2 may be needed in our district. So you won't see that on the quote. So I will hand over the rest of these lovely slides so Ms. Smith can walk you through why we've selected these materials and what the materials will be doing for us. Ms. Smith.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here this evening to share a little bit more about these purchases. So I'm going to begin by telling you a little bit about the volume of reading texts that we are purchasing through Great Minds. These texts are a collection of both literary and informational titles, and they are books that teachers can use for additional classroom instruction, and also books that students will be selecting for independent reading during our differentiated instruction block within literacy. These volume of reading texts have been carefully curated to help students really build and expand their knowledge, and they are directly connected to the module topics studied in Arts and Letters, which is our new reading and writing curriculum. The texts that will be purchased for each grade level vary in genre and level of complexity, and they provide students this balance between getting extra knowledge and extra practice with vocabulary, as well as, most importantly, really having time to develop their love of reading.
Uh-oh. Oh, you're back. Okay.
The next set of materials that we are purchasing are called geodes. And these are sets of books that were written for emerging and developing readers, and they systematically weave foundational skills practice together with knowledge building content so that students can work on their phonetic skills and build fluency, all while acquiring new background knowledge. Each of the texts written for geodes as part of these collections help reinforce students' phonetic knowledge and continue to support their growth of content knowledge. Geodes titles reflect a broad range of identities and diverse experiences so that all of our students can see themselves and others and learn about worlds that are both familiar and distant. Geodes are informational rich, and they are organized into connected text sets and connect directly to our arts and letters instruction. This resource would be used by teachers to support differentiation within the small group time within our literacy block. One of the key features of geodes is also their direct connection to the scope and sequence of our phonics program, UFly Foundations. These books are written to help students expand their decoding practice and also for them to gain knowledge about the same topics being studied in reading and writing. The example on the screen for level K shows this overlap between what students are learning in arts and letters and then the phonics skills that they're practicing within UFly. So the scope and sequence of UFly connects to the module topics in arts and letters. So this is just kind of an overview of the level K guide. And then on the following slide, you'll see first grades. You want to advance the slide. So you'll see first grade, and then you'll also see on the next slide, second grade. And then on the final slide that I'll share with you tonight, we just want to again emphasize the overlap of this tool, Geodes, which provides differentiation, which supports foundational skills and phonetic development, and its alignment with arts and letters. So truly, this resource builds a connection between decoding practice and building knowledge, which is just a really exciting opportunity for our K through 3 learners.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Smith. So here's the breakdown of, in more detail, what we'll be receiving. It's, I can't tell you how exciting this is. We're going to have Geodes Level K classroom kits with teacher guides that will give us 384 color copy books and 240 black and white copy books. Those can be used in class and at home. And I've got samples I'm going to pass around in just a second. We have 384 again and 320 black and whites for classroom level 1 kits, and the same for level 2. Level 3 kits and the teacher guides with 96 color copy books, and they also get warm-up cards, which there are samples of in here. And then for Great Minds volume of reading text, there are 3 copies of each applicable text for the modules 1 through 4 at each grade level. So there are sets of 6 to be used in small group. You can picture our teachers delivering UFly, understanding where students are in their acquisition of early literacy skills, being able to walk over to Geodes, pick up a kit and a set that's going to help them practice the thing they just learned, and sit with them in small group, do that work, and then the child actually takes the book home, reads it with family members. I mean, it is a wraparound, incredible thing that we are able to do with these grant monies. So the professional learning is there. Ms. Smith will share more detail if you need to, but essentially we're building a train-the-trainer model with our building literacy coaches becoming trainers. So they are on site in the buildings. They'll be able to provide all the training that our educators need, both embedded and in those staff meeting situations or curriculum design days. And then we're testing out a year of digital licensing. We're not sure it's going to be necessary, but we'll give it a go since we have the grant dollars to try it out. And we'll keep you posted on that. So that is essentially what we're asking for tonight. And yet again, on the last slide is that recommendation for you one last time to approve $1,532,296 of geodes and volume of reading with professional learning and 1 year of digital licensing, all coming from 35M. Grant funding. And I'll pass some kits
I want to
around.
celebrate this big, and I'm looking at Trustee Wilkes, who has taught reading, and nothing more frustrating than teaching a concept and you don't have a book that allows them to use that skill and practice the skill. And you're over at the copier trying to come up with passages and all kinds of stuff. So this is all that training, and it all comes together with now we need the materials so teachers can do what they're trying to accomplish. So this is wonderful.
Yeah. To be a second grade teacher again, I mean, really, this would be a lifesaver. So I just want to say that I'm impressed with the overlap, how the reading materials align with UFly instruction, with the phonetics instruction, and with the module topics within arts and letters. I just think that's amazing. And it's really going to be beneficial for our teachers and our students. So bravo to that. So the professional development is included in the cost. This includes in-person instruction, virtual, and on-demand, correct?
That's correct.
And I know we addressed this during our committee meeting, but I'm just going to bring it up again. But so do we know approximately how many teachers will be participating in the in-person instruction opportunities, and how many teachers overall will receive this training?
Yeah, great question. And Ms. Smith can correct me if I say this inaccurately, but each of our building literacy coaches, and there's one in each building in our district, we're really blessed to have that resource, will be taking part in that face-to-face, in-person learning. And that's part of that train-the-trainer model.
Yes, and then we would use our building literacy coaches to help lead the professional learning for all of our K-3 teachers, and then probably another round of training for our support staff, as we'll have extra kits available for our OSE providers, and then some training also for our 4th and 5th grade teachers who might use some of the extra materials with their striving readers as well. The virtual sessions are kind of meant to be check-ins for the trainers so that we have other opportunities to kind of continue to advance our knowledge as we continue to support teachers.
Good to know. And will the professional development take place this year? And will these materials be in the classroom soon, now that we have a state budget?
That's what we were waiting for. And then with your approval, we will place that order and get going just as soon as everything arrives.
Okay, all right.
You know, I know that what's going on at Scarlett with a classroom there, I mean, these would even be appropriate.
Absolutely.
For those very challenged readers.
Yep.
And yeah.
I agree.
Very beautiful.
Aren't they beautiful?
Trustee Wilkins?
I have a not as a English teacher, not reading teacher. How does can you explain more about how the arts and letters, is this like frosting? Like we have the arts and letters thing and this is just like extra great stuff we get to spend more money on, and or is it something that arts and letters was lacking that we are fortunate enough to be able to supplement? Can you just
Sure.
address where it fits into that curriculum?
I think Kristen will be better able to explain, but I will say it's both of what you're sharing. But go ahead, Kristen.
Yes, Dawn or Miss Linton, yes, definitely both. Each of those curriculum resources that you mentioned sort of address different parts of a skilled reader. So our arts and letters curriculum really addresses language comprehension needs. So it teaches students how to develop vocabulary and background knowledge. They're really working on comprehension, whereas UFly and what these geodes texts will support is their ability to actually decode words and actually read print on the page. But the really beautiful piece is that the content in both overlaps. So as students are practicing their decoding, they're gaining knowledge about the very same topic they're reading and writing about during arts and letters instruction. So kind of these pieces together address all of the strands needed to develop skilled readers.
Thank you.
Great question.
Yeah, thank you. I was not a reading teacher, but I was slow to learn to read, and I just think these are just beautiful materials. I mean, not only culturally, you've got names that are native to the cultures. I mean, this is very cool. And as a student, I would be thrilled with the colors and again the representation. Just want to step back though. This 87 million, we got 1.5 million. For those who don't understand state funding, and God knows a lot of us don't, can you explain to our community how we were awarded this money? What was the criteria? What did we have to do? What are the expectations of getting such a large amount?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I have to thank Ms. Smith for working with her building literacy coaches and helping to identify what would be the best fit for us. It is a per pupil allocation grant, but you have to apply for it and you have to submit a very detailed budget and you have to select from the list of approved materials. So we're very lucky that we used previous grant materials to purchase arts and letters. Many other districts were not in that same position, so they're using these monies to purchase curriculum, and they've had to make those decisions very quickly in order to get their applications in. We had the luxury of being very well planned and being able to do that very extensive pilot using other grant dollars last year to do that. So we have the ability now to round out all of our K-5 literacy with this next thing, the geodes and the volume of reading. So we're pretty, I just have to congratulate Kristen and the BLCs and everybody who worked together on this transformation toward where we are right now, because this is the cherry on top. And
well, I would also
such beautiful
say,
shape.
Ms. Linden, too, I appreciate the leadership and the subject matter expertise that I know other districts don't have, and we're very fortunate that, you know, we have you ladies, and there may be some guys out there too, forgive me, because again, you know, this doesn't happen overnight. We have heard a lot of criticism about central administration. Well, without you guys going to get the money to provide the detailed applications, I mean, I've done state applications professionally.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Right? It takes time. And so, again, thank you for this. But talk to it, the expectations. Okay, we've got this money. This is one-time funding.
Correct.
Okay, and then I'm assuming there's a report of something that has to be submitted. I mean, tell us what else has to be done after spending the money.
We do have to abide by the budget that we put forward. So what you're seeing here in the memo is what we applied for in the budget. It's fully aligned. I have to thank Ms. Joanna Johnson for making sure all those I's are dotted and T's are crossed, because she's a genius when it comes to grants.
She is good.
And so from here on out, we complete the ordering, we submit the records that we have spent the money according to what we said we would. And from there, I believe, Kristen, unless there's more to it, I think we're good. There isn't a requirement that we evaluate the impact, although we will.
Yes.
Some grants, we do have to share impact data, but
Thank you.
not with this
Thank
one.
you. And so we hope to, pending approval, we'll have these in the hands of our students when?
Kristen, when do you think after approval, I know second briefing is coming up the end of this month, and if we could turn that PO around pretty quickly, when do you think we could get started?
We've been speaking with Great Minds about trying to get them here before the winter break.
Great.
So that, I think that's the goal.
Well, that's great.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the information and you guys, again, the good work.
Thank you. We appreciate your support.
Another question about the professional development piece. How does that, how would that fit with the arts and letters? You said that that's pretty intensive and it's a lot. So this is going to be one more thing
Yes,
that they're
thank
going to
you.
have to learn about. How does that work?
I think it will be a welcome one more thing because the differentiation block has always been a real challenge for educators. So this is one element of the training that our teachers will receive and professional learning throughout the course of this year. And it will happen during our curriculum design days, which are once a month. But I don't know, Ms. Smith, if you want to share more detail.
I think the only thing I would add is I appreciate you bringing that up because we always want to think about the capacity of teachers. And this was sort of the beauty of being able to use grant money for something that sort of tucks right into what we're already doing. But in particular, geodes were also designed to be a light lift for teachers in terms of also providing, which you can see in the samples, some teaching materials that accompany the text to help teachers plan small group instruction. So we're hopeful that this will be a welcome addition to classrooms and also will be a much lighter lift for teachers to begin using than something like arts and letters, which will have, multiple sessions over the course of this year and the next few years to make sure that we are implementing in the best way possible.
Question.
Okay, you guys.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm lobbying over here. So we have had other meetings where, for instance, the risers for the music room, which was like, we need them now. And I know that teachers are already in these units working in the arts and letters. And I'm seeing, okay, so we wait 2 weeks to have a meeting, and then we have a PO that has, this
What's
is
your
grant
request,
money.
Christy?
I would like to move that we take this up tonight so that we can vote this. Hopefully, I would have somebody second it, and we would vote to have this go forward so you can get that order made, and we can get these into the classroom.
Thank you.
Because they're already teaching those skills, and the kids don't have these books.
So add it to the consent agenda? That way.
Sure. And I see Ms. Osinski. Yes, but I would need a second
needed support.
on that motion.
Have you made
Put
the
it there.
motion? If you make the motion, I will certainly second
Yes,
it.
I made the motion.
I
We don't
second
need a
it.
second.
Oh, I don't have to.
Oh,
Do we have general consent to move it to the consent agenda? I'm looking at your heads.
Well,
Or President?
I will be asking to pull it out if it's added. So,
Oh.
yes.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just go straight to board action.
So no motion is needed? I'm sorry?
No, so no
No motion.
is
No
needed
motion
to
is
move
needed.
it to action? Okay, so
Okay.
it'll go there and then we'll see what we come up with when we get there. You don't think that's right?
No, I don't, but hey, I'm going with the flow.
Well, I don't either. It seems like we need a motion and a second to move it to board action.
Why don't we go that route then? It's been moved by Trustee Schmidt to add this 35M grant purchases. to the board.
You can actually act on it right now.
Okay.
Right.
You can move to approve it and then have your discussion.
Okay.
If you move it to consent, though, you're not supposed to discuss it. That's the issue.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to act on approving it now, You can make a motion to approve it, get a second, have your discussion, and then vote.
So it's been moved to approve
So
by
moved.
trustee Schmidt.
Second.
Support by trustee Wilkes.
Okay, now we can.
Now we can have discussion.
I think it's cleaner to put it, I'm sorry.
Trustee Wilkes.
I have a quick question on the professional development that accompanies this. If these books or materials would arrive before the winter break, when would that professional development be executed?
This isn't a terribly busy time for professional development. The busy time for our publishers is usually August. But Kristen, feel free.
Yeah, we've been in close contact with Great Minds, knowing that hopefully this purchase was coming, and I know they're ready to support whenever we ask. So I think that we could have the professional learning done, as soon as possible. They have also shared with us that, even if there's like a little bit of a lag between the books arriving and the time teachers receive professional learning, there's no harm in having the books ready to explore in the classroom. And then we can always build in professional learning at the first opportunity we have during curriculum design.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Trustee Muhammad.
And you were saying earlier, there is a plan to evaluate this, because obviously this is from, this is from grant funding. So if we want to approve it in the future and things like that, it would be helpful.
Yes.
And part of the evaluation, is it also getting input from the teachers that are using this?
Yeah, we will, our plans, and Ms. Smith can share more about it, but our plans this year are to survey our teachers, our students, our caregivers about all aspects of our literacy experience. So this will be part of that.
Yeah, because I think one of the, again, thinking of the teachers' time, because they're already
Absolutely.
taking a big undertaking with the literacy,
It
new
is a big
literacy program. Now we're adding this, which seems like a light lift, but it would be important to just make sure, this is grant funding, it's a no-brainer, to support this, but at the same time, we want to make sure that it's not adding more, they're already, more load onto the teachers.
It's part of I think the benefit of having building literacy coaches in every building, because they have their finger on the pulse of what's happening. They're in communication all the time with classroom teachers, and they really do inform the speed with which we can move and what our educators need in terms of support. So if they need more or less to slow down or speed up, those are things that we can be nimble enough to do.
Something like this, when you teach a concept, like say the final silent E, you need then passages and things to read to practice what you just taught. UFly has a passage. That's one. It's fun, and I know just from doing my own private tutoring, when I say we're going to get the book, it's like, oh, the book, that's like special, because now you get to use it in a book. And I hear that you're doing professional learning with this, but there's not a whole lot of professional learning with this aspect. This is a library that basically the teacher then can go and tap this and use it. So that's why I see it's like, I already know they're learning certain things, and some of these books would really be great.
I agree.
So that's why I think the timeliness is good.
And not only that, correct me if I'm wrong, but students will be able to take these books home.
That's
correct? So, not only just doing the learning in the classroom and the independent reading during reading time, but taking books home and actually practicing.
That's right.
So that's wonderful.
Reading to their caregivers, their
Right.
siblings, their pets.
Right, absolutely.
So I'll make my comment now. So I'm sorry, it was seconded by trustee Wilkes. It was
Wilkes. Yep.
So as I said at previous meetings, and maybe it's the attorney in me, but I feel like we have rules for a reason, and I think we have first and second briefing for a reason. And I would not be comfortable moving this forward unless it was an emergency. This is not an emergency situation. 2 weeks isn't going to kill anyone. So I would not be in favor of bypassing our rules, even though I love the materials, and I thank you for doing all the work you all have done. But I think we have a policy for a reason. This is the first time that the public has heard us have this discussion. It gives teachers, and parents, and other people an opportunity to weigh in on these books and these materials. And so I don't feel comfortable taking that away from them. And so I would not be supporting this today.
Now, because I want to work together as a board, I can pull back my motion, and we can wait 2 weeks. So I'm going to do that.
President Feaster, thank you for sharing that, because we do need to be mindful of parents, teachers, allowing folks time to really look at this as opposed to rushing it through. And 2 weeks is 2 weeks. It's not that long.
We can handle that.
So, yeah.
We can handle that.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for hearing my concerns. But whatever you all choose will be fine with me. But thank you for your concerns. Is there
Thank you
anything?
for that discussion.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
I just want to point out, I think we just demonstrated point number one under good governance. Congratulations, team.
Yes.
So the public,
Good job.
okay, so the public knows we have a good governance thing in front of us, just to remind us so that we're working well together as a result of our retreat, which that's the point, right?
Yes. Is there anything further on 35M?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, then thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you, Ms.
you very
Linden.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Ms.
team.
Smith.
Thank
Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Great work.
I believe that brings us down to number 10 in the consent agenda. We are now at the consent agenda. Ms. Ozinski, will you please read the consent agenda?
Approve the minutes of the September 17th, 2025 regular meeting. Approve the minutes of the September 28th, 2025 board retreat. And approve a closed session for the purpose of negotiations and attorney-client privilege at 6 p.m. on October 22nd, 2025.
Thank you, Ms. Ozinski. Would anyone like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So move.
Moved by Trustee Wilkes,
Second?
supported by Trustee Schmidt. We don't need discussion on this, I believe. It's consent agenda, right?
Yes, you
Okay.
can. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yes, no,
Okay.
no discussion.
All right. So, Ms. Ozinski, may we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Basket,
Yes.
President Feaster.
Yes.
Trustee Mohammed.
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt.
Yes.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Yes.
Trustee Wilkins.
Yes.
And Trustee Wilkes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. I believe that brings us down to board action. Do we have anything under board action tonight? Okay. Then that moves us down to items for agenda planning. Trustees, are there any items for agenda planning? I know about the phones.
I know.
Trustee Mohammed.
So I know this is, I don't know if this is going to be coming up, but I would love to see some more data about the absenteeism, especially chronic absenteeism. I don't know if it was planned or not, but something around that because we talk about it a lot. So just even having the numbers and what's going on would be helpful. And then I know during our retreat, we talked about our board goals and us actually taking some vote on it. That was what was recommended. So I would like to at least bring that up maybe at the next meeting so we can get the board goals done. And then again, this might be planned, but talking about the bond, just things around when it comes to projects. I know that we talked about, they presented the budget, but just kind of follow up around that. And that may be planned.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
Thank you, though.
So the bond portion, I think that's already on a coming agenda. I do have the absenteeism and I have the board goals.
Yeah.
Okay. Else in terms of item 4, Trustee Wilkins.
When will we be hearing and discussing the culture survey that we
The
talked about?
culture comment survey comes the next meeting, the
That's the next
22nd.
Right.
Okay. There's nothing else. I believe that brings us down to items from the board. But do trustees have anything they would like to share? Trustee Wilkes.
Thank you, President Feaster. So an incident occurred last week on one of our school campuses. I won't go into details for the sake of protecting the privacy of those involved, but as we talk about student achievement data, we can't have this conversation without talking about the culture and climate on our campuses, the climate from the parking lot to the front office, throughout the hallways, and into our classrooms. Student achievement and climate go hand in hand. I know we'll be sharing the results of our annual culture and climate survey soon, but I just want to stress that the climate on our campuses also impacts our staff. That includes our teachers, our office professionals, our paraprofessionals, and the list goes on. One of our goals as a district is to ensure that everyone who steps foot on our campuses feels welcomed and that they feel a sense of belonging. I just want to reiterate that our goal is to cultivate a warm, welcoming atmosphere that helps instill a sense of belonging. And having said that, I just want to stress that no form of hatred has a place in this community or within this district. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Wilson.
Thank you for sharing that. I think those are very important words that we have to continue to know that's what we're all here for and to make sure that happens.
Absolutely.
Seeing nothing else?
Yep.
Oh,
So, no, real quickly, if
Trustee
I may.
Vasquez?
Trustees, I know the superintendent has made us aware of about 3 weeks ago of upcoming events in our community of organizations that support us. And if, you have the time, I really would encourage each of us to support the girls group. They do wonderful work in our school community. Of course, you can go to the website for all the details. NAACP, the Freedom Fund Dinner is November 2nd. It's a Sunday afternoon. And for those who don't know, the Ann Arbor branch of the NAACP, we spend our Freedom Fund dinners around our scholars. Others in other communities, it's politics or whatever, but it's for us in Ann Arbor, it's all about our scholars. And just to clarify, because we get this question every year, we honor African American students who self-identify as being African American. At this particular dinner, it is a packed house. If you haven't already spoke with the superintendent or her support staff, please let her know that you're interested in attending, because tickets do go fast. The second event, which I've come to love as well, is the Peace Neighborhoods. Thanks for Giving, again, November 6th. And I don't have to tell you about their great organization, but just want to remind you, if you have the time, please plan to attend. They're there for our kids. We should make an effort to be there and thank them in person for their work. So just wanted to make everyone aware of that. Thank you, President Feaster.
Thank you, Trustee Vasquez. Seeing nothing else, I believe that brings us down to a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn by voice vote?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Schmidt,
Second.
supported by Trustee Wilkerson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor to adjourn say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 9:18 p.m.
Why do you think?
Record.